Welcome to my channel. My name's David, and in this video I'll be talking about my experience with spiritual awakening. And it's something that I only realized that had happened perhaps a few months ago. It took me a while to figure it out, which is actually the reason why I started this channel, because there is an awakening going on the planet right now, and I know a lot more people are going to be going through this and looking for answers. So before I get started, we got to understand, what I want you to understand is that everybody is going through is on a spiritual journey, whether they know it or not. We're all spiritual beings. It's just that most people rarely progress past the first level of consciousness. Now, the very first stage in a spiritual awakening is a feeling of being lost. And whilst the spiritual awakening will happen much later down the track, I'm going to start my story here. So when I was about 21, I was at university studying commerce. I was going to be majoring in accounting, and my mum had thought I had ADHD. So she took me to a bunch of different doctors, and I was sitting in this doctor's office one day with my parents there, and he asked me some questions. He was kind of trying to get to figure out what was going on with me. And I said to him, "Look, I just feel really lost." And he kind of said, "You feel lost?" And I was like, "Yeah." So nothing really got solved there. He put me on some medication for ADHD. I took it for a while, took myself off it because I felt like I was going a bit crazy taking it. And then a few years later, whilst I was at university, I was just about to finish. A friend of mine, he introduced me to the DVD, The Secret. And The Secret's about the law of attraction, if you haven't heard of The Secret before. And I was quite skeptical, as you'd imagine. I mean, when you're watching a video like that, basically the video teaches you about how to focus your thoughts and attract things into your life that you want. Now, the DVD did miss out a lot of crucial steps to the law of attraction, but that was the gist of it. And of course, I was a little bit skeptical, but I was open-minded enough to give it a shot. And in my final semester of university, I tried it, and I kind of got some grades that were kind of mimicked the ones that I wanted, which I guess was proof that it worked, but that was kind of the only law of attraction experience at the time. I then went into work as an accountant. So I was 24 at this point, and I hated it. I mean, what can I say? It was I didn't enjoy it at all. A girl that started with me on the same day as me, she quit after the first week, and I probably should have done the same thing, but I stuck it out for a while because my mum always taught me, finish what you start. And I ended up staying at that one job for about 15 months. I then moved on to another accounting role, and that was my life for a very long time. From the time I was 24 to the time I was 30, 7 years, it was just accounting. And not a lot happened. I remember being about 27 and feeling like I was at crossroads in my life and in my career, and feeling like I had no options whatsoever. Just the only options were go to university again or find another accounting job. And that's really what I felt like in my head. Those are my only options. So that 7-year period was just pretty much a rerun every weekend of drinking, working on the weekends, and then obviously repeating that cycle over and over and over. And I remember waking up one morning when I was pretty early on in my career, and I said to my mum, I said, there has to be more to life than just working a job that you hate and then getting drunk twice on the weekend and then waking up to do it all over again. And she kind of gave me this look where she kind of knew I was right, or the question was something that could be deeply pondered, but she didn't know the answer, and I didn't even know what she said. So for that 6-year period, nothing changed at all. I went traveling here and there. I went to Japan, I went to Europe a couple of times, and a few of my friends had actually moved to London and were having a really good time. I actually visited London my first time, 2011, I think, and then the next year I went back. And by that time, they'd been there for a year, and I saw how much of a great time they were having, and I thought, I got to do this. In order for me to do that, I had to finish my CPA, which was the Certified Public Accountant accreditation. So I put some steps in motion and I was like, oh, okay, I'll do this. I fucking hate it, but I'm going to do this anyway. And it worked. I ended up passing my units and I left to go to London in October of 2013. Now, beforehand, I actually quit work so I could study 2 units at once. And the plan was to finish those 2 units and then go in June. But I failed one of my exams, fortunately or unfortunately, and I ended up going in October. Whilst I was in London, I obviously didn't have to study anymore. And what I want to add just before we go any further is that whole time while I was an accountant, from even beforehand, up until 30, I was very depressed, like in and out of depression, not really doing a lot with my life other than just escaping my existence on the weekends. And there would be times where, yeah, you'd go up, you feel like you're going up, and then it'd be just back down again. Just not constantly up and down, but mostly down. And so when I got to London, I had this like new lease on life. I was no longer living in my home city. It was just a new experience, obviously, and I got to meet new people. It was great. I didn't have to study accounting anymore, but I was still working as an accountant. But that was kind of like secondary. It didn't really matter so much. It was an awesome experience. And while I was in London, I always felt like my dating life was terrible, and also I was terrible with women. So I started to take steps to really sort that area of my life out, because I always felt like it took a backseat to studying. And when I was in London, I met a few different people, and I also got a dating coach, and he really helped me overcome those barriers and also change some beliefs that I had in my head around my skills with women. And when I was in London, I met this one guy. This was like a year before I left. And he was going to this meeting about becoming a life coach, and it's an information day, pretty much. It was like half a day. And I was at crossroads again in my career. I was like, I don't want to be an accountant when I get back to Perth. I always knew I didn't want to be an accountant, but it was just like, what are my options? What am I even going to do? So after that meeting, I decided when I get back to Perth in 2015, I'll be a life coach. I'll take steps to study that profession, and then I'll do it. So I did that when I got back. Before I got back though, just rewinding slightly, and I know this is probably getting a bit confusing, but there are so many things that happen. Just before I left, which is in 2015 in July, I woke up one morning with this huge amount of energy, clarity, certainty, drive, in just this knowing that I wouldn't have to drink alcohol anymore if I didn't want to. And I didn't know what it was at the time. Now I know that I was moving from level 1 consciousness to level 2, but I didn't know that. And all I wanted to do was get that feeling back after it dissipated, because it lasted about 3 months, but it did go away after a while. So I spent the next year and a bit in Perth, and not a lot of growth happened. I was trying to get this feeling back, and I ended up moving to Melbourne, which is another city in Australia, bigger, more open-minded towards personal development, and a great place to start a business, or so I thought. So I moved to Melbourne, and I aligned myself with a few different people, and some good and some bad. And I ended up signing up with a life coaching company, a business coaching company in Melbourne. And from what I could tell, it was going to help me take my business to a level. It was at no level, but it was going to help me take it to a level where I could consistently earn a certain amount of money every month. And I was like, okay, cool. After about 6 weeks in, I hit this roadblock where that experience that I had in London that I just told you about, I experienced the opposite of that. It was mid-May 2017, and I just woke up feeling really unconfident, really unclear, uncertain, just lack of energy, everything. And what I didn't know was this started a downward spiral, but it was also a way of my soul helping me get in touch with my true self, so that I could progress to the next level, the third level of consciousness. And we'll get to that in a minute. So in May of 2017, I started this downward spiral, and I'd have weeks where all of a sudden I felt really good again, and it would go up and then I'd go down. And I went back home to visit my parents. I felt like I was getting burnt out. I felt like I really needed to connect with myself again and my family. So I came back in July of 2017 to Perth. And whilst I was there, I ended up getting a job through a friend of a friend in a bank. And I had the job interview on the phone. I got the job. I was like, okay, this is great. If I'm not going to do business anymore, because honestly, my business was nowhere. And I was feeling like, is business even for me? I don't know. So I thought I'll work my way up and do the bank thing and start out as a teller, which is what I had to do. And I'll just work my way up through management and then earn 100K eventually. That's the plan. So that was what it was. And in August, I started that job. I hated it. And there was no surprise. I didn't really think I was going to like it, but who knows? You never know. But it was through that banking job where my boss asked me one day, he brought me into his office and he said, David, how do you think things are going? And I said, yeah, things are going okay. And he goes, you don't look like you're enjoying yourself. And I said, well, I'm not really sure if I am. And then he said, what do you like to do? What would you like to do? I said, I don't know. He said, what do you like to do? And I looked at him and I said, I don't know. And it was at that point that I realized that I had no idea who I was, even though in 2015, when I had that awakening, what I thought was an awakening in London, I felt like I knew who I was. And it really concerned me that I was like, I don't know who I am anymore. And I began searching for answers. The only thing I could think of was, I've lost my sense of self. I searched that on YouTube. I saw a video about this girl who experienced something similar, the only one I could find. And it really described to me what I was going through. But I didn't really look at her channel anymore after that, which I should have. I just kind of thought, okay, well, I don't know what I like. What I do love is music. And so I'm going to just do that in the hope that it helps, that it helps. So I started drumming. I started taking singing lessons. And at the end of the year, 2017, I was really depressed again. I was working a job I didn't like. I was also living in a place I didn't like, living with two people who were not really on the same wavelength as me. And when I thought nothing could get worse, like both environments that I was in, majority of my waking hours, when I didn't think anything could get any worse, I lost both of those things. I got kicked out and I lost my job, all within the space of 2 weeks. And it put me into a tailspin. I was super stressed, of course, but it was actually the best thing that ever happened because I hated it anyway. But at the time, it was very stressful. So I ended up moving in with a friend of mine, and he had a kind of a similar situation with his housemate where he kicked him out. I moved in. That was like one thing off the head I didn't have to think about, and then I had to look for a new job. And it was at that point when it was taking a while. Actually, I had a job. I was only working like half a day a week, so it was barely anything. And it was in men's fashion because I had an interest in men's fashion. And when I left the bank, I ended up getting HTC. I'd seen these webinars for HTC, which is the high ticket closing program, months before, and I actually enrolled, and I decided to take myself out of it because I was going through such a bad time, and I'd feel like I couldn't give it the time that it needed. So they were just starting a new season. I was like, okay, this is my time. I got to do this. Like, I'll train myself in sales. If I ever want to start a business again, at least I'll have that skill. If I don't, that's great. At least I'll have the skill and I can do sales for a while. Get myself out of debt because I was in debt at this point too. And so I did the course, and I didn't know what to expect, but it was by far the best personal development course I've ever done. And not only that, but it also gave me the sales skill. I was expecting just sales, but it gave me so much more than that. And I've got a review down below. This is not a plug for the program at all, even though I do have an affiliate link, but there's a review down below if you want to check it out. But so at the end of that course, I got so much clarity about what I wanted to do with myself. I really felt like things were starting to look better. I was more confident because I was very unconfident before after this business failure that I had. And music was going well. Like I was improving my singing, improving my drumming, and things were starting to look up. I started experiencing a lot of crazy stuff. I started doing a lot of mind programming and attitude of gratitude and being grateful every day. And I started just noticing a lot of crazy things happening. I was attracting money left, right, and center, like little bits of money, but money nonetheless. But then other crazy things happened with money. Like I got an unexpected check in the mail for nearly $1,000 from the time I worked in London, and I made a few affiliate sales, and overall I ended up manifesting a little over $10,000 in, I don't know, let's say 9 months, six months or something like that. And that kind of started to wake me up. I started to realize that I was able to attract, have the energy of attracting money, because I'd never found money so many times. I was finding money like almost every day, and I think in like an 11-day period, I found money, 5-day period, I found money like 11 times or something stupid, or other way around. But it was happening a lot. I lost count of the number of times I found money, just all over the place. And it wasn't in my house. These are on the street, in ticket machines, on bus seats, train seats, and things like that, in the gym. And so, long story short, I started having more experiences with the universe. I started law of attraction, writing out a lot of different things and manifesting upgrades for flights, and seeing different signs from the universe that I wouldn't have seen before. And a lot of this was amazing to me. I'd never experienced anything like it. And as you go on this spiritual journey, you will start to notice different signs from the universe, and it will only just get more prevalent as you go along. When it got to the end of that year, 2018 now, I was really excited about 2019. I was like, I'm going to get out of debt, I'm going to be an awesome closer, and I'm going to then pursue music. That was the plan. I got to the end of 2018, and I felt really kind of a little bit lost again. I was like, what am I doing? I want to do music, but I'm not doing it, in the way that I wanted to. Yes, I was singing and drumming and I was getting better, but I wanted to write music. I wanted to move my life forwards and be creative, and which is a funny thing, because I never thought I was creative before. But I got to the end of that year, and I had a call with a friend of mine in the US, and she's a woman I met. I haven't met her personally yet, but I met her online through a coaching group that I was with, and she's kind of become my mentor. And if you're watching this, thank you so much. You know who you are. But she really got me on the path to move my life in the direction that I wanted it to. She's like, you should be doing music. Why aren't you doing music? You always talk about it, but you're not doing it. Why not? And I said, well, I gave her a bunch of different reasons, a bunch of excuses. And she said, well, let's get a plan together to help you do it. So I was like, okay, cool. So we did. I ended up moving back to Perth. And long story short, I started playing music and things started working out. Like, I paid off a bunch of debt, and yeah, there were lots of challenges, of course, but overall, my life just started getting better and better and better, even though 2018 was a good year, I really feel. But it started getting better. I started noticing more synchronicities with the universe, times like 11, 11, 12, 12, 20, 20, like a lot of different crazy things, 22, 22. And just feeling like my vibration was high and keeping it high. Like my vibrational set point was here, whereas ordinarily it would be here. But it was, and yeah, you get your ups and downs, but it was mostly around here. And it was that point that I realized that I'd progressed from the second level of consciousness to the third, which is, the first level is you're in victim mode. The second level is you realize that you can make change in your life and you can do things that will change your situation. And the third level is when you know that you can utilize the power of the universe to manifest things into your life by taking action, but also with your thoughts, and also without having to take so much action, because you will get burnt out. And I did previously. So that is pretty much the end of the story. And there's a lot more to it, more recently I've had a lot more experiences, but I'm kind of just real fresh into this, and I know I'll have more in the future. But the main takeaways I wanted you to get from this is that life is going to feel tough, of course, but there's always another level if we are willing to go and seek and search for it and seek it out. Because nothing would have changed if I had stayed in Perth, and nothing would have changed if I hadn't started that business. And yeah, it was damn hard, but I'm so glad that I persevered and chased. I guess chase is the right word, but chase something else, something greater than myself, in order to achieve that. And because I didn't even know spiritual awakening existed, I didn't even know what it was. So that's why I'm making this video, and that's why I'm starting this channel, because there are probably people out there that are going through something similar, and they don't know what they're experiencing, and they don't know why, they're looking for answers. So thanks for your time. Take care. Speak to you soon.